Hello and welcome to another video, and this is the continuation of the Platinum Dragon Lord Armor guide. This is the practical part of the guide. In this one I'm gonna go to the arena mode and maybe even other modes, but usually it's just the combat arena, and show you different teams and compositions that I recommended on the last part to play with or around this character. And I'm gonna be showing you fights against different teams that I find here. Usually I only try to avoid the pay to win teams, for example like this one. Usually the easiest way to spot them is because they have the paid skins, and those are the only teams that I try to avoid because are teams with each character having like 80k combat power and so, when realistically a free to play hardly can get to 50k. But anyway, um, I'm gonna be showing you multiple teams and compositions, and it might be a single video or multiple parts depending on the duration and maybe how much I want to show the teams. The first part or the first section here, I think it's gonna be a shock team. Basically, the shock synergy with this character. The PDL can shock the enemies with the ultimate skill, as well as the basic attack, as well as the magic absorption skill that is, his normal active skill before the ultimate. This one right here. And when he shocks the enemies, well, when he tries to shock the enemies, either he applies it for the first time or he triggers it if the enemy already had it. The synergy part here is because he can do that. That means that our other characters that are gonna enjoy that bonus of shocking the enemies, because there are characters like this Nave, for example, that does extra damage to enemies with shock, or if she attacks someone with shock, she can do an extra attack again with a little bit of less damage, but it's extra DPS. Or characters like this Nave here that are able to basically do a ton of damage, a ton of critical damage, shock the enemy at the same time, and maybe even execute them and go for the next character. This Aura, for example, is also part of that synergy because she does area of effect damage that shocks the enemies. She can stun enemies with the second skill as well as the passive skill, and she does extra critical damage and extra crit chance against targets with shock. So if the PDL can shock the enemies, she can enjoy extra critical chance and extra critical damage. And she also gets turn meter boost every time she attacks someone with shock, or every time the enemy shock triggers. And maybe cases where, for example, someone plays before the PDL and shocks the enemies. For example, it could be this Aura shocks the enemies and gets the bonuses, but then the enemy purifies itself, and the PDL plays after Aura in some cases. Then the PDL can reapply shock on the enemy even when the enemy already purified it, and that might allow characters like Aura in this case to also do the extra critical chance and critical damage to the enemies by the next turn, because even when the enemies try to get rid of shock, the PDL put it again. And there's another character that plays really well into that synergy, and it's this Entoma right here. Entoma not only can reset her turn with the ultimate and gain extra damage with her arc light, but also her second skill, the Thunderbird Talisman, is also an area of effect magical damage skill that shocks multiple enemies at the same time, or if they're already shocked, she triggers the shocks. And we can combine that with this tank as well to help the PDL. This tank might cover the weaknesses of the PDL. PDL is incredibly good against physical damage, and he, helps reapplying shock. Well, Sisita is really good against magical damage. She's really good on speed. She might almost all the time get one of the first turns on the game, while the PDL always gets one of the last turns of the game. And with the ultimate and her captain skill, she might be able to lower the enemy magical defense and make them receive more magical damage that will allow shock to do more damage as well as the characters like Entoma or Narveral might be able to do even more damage in that same way. So that might be for the first composition that had the Platinum Armor Lord. The Platinum Dragon Lord armor. The other team that might be able, that I'm gonna be showing, I think in the next parts, are the stalling teams. Stalling teams is basically using the PDL with one tank and one healer, or double tank as well, side of the PDL to protect at all cost one carry and boost it so that one carry never dies and kills everyone, like Victim for example, that is able to do a ton of damage but also dies very very easily and is very fragile, so he needs protection. You might be able to use that PDL with, for example, this Hamuska right here. So Hamuska also increases the physical defense of everyone and increases their damage based on physical defense. So it might increase the PDL defense that already scales all the way to 390% of his physical defense as protection on his ultimate. And you can use PDL with that Hamuske, Victim as the carry, and This Albedo. This Albedo will ensure that no one dies and will increase Victim critical damage. So everyone might be able to do even more sorry, everyone. Everyone will be able to do more damage thanks to Hamuske damage on the passive, but also it's gonna be incredibly tanky because of the PDL War Isolating Barrier as well as Hamuske extra defense, and Albedo gives invulnerabilities, healing, shields, everything, as well as basically helping all of the team because as long as she's alive, no one is gonna die, no matter what. And you have Victim, so he carries with pure damage and maybe stuns the enemies. You can change Victim for something like Seshi, for example, or something like this Nave or this Limited Momon. There are also really good carries that might need a little bit of setup or a little bit of time to show their maximum damage to the enemy. And the last kind of teams that you could use is the control teams. Control teams might be, for example, this Albedo that is able to taunt all the enemy team at once or just one enemy. Also includes characters, for example, like Saryusu, that is able to jump in, freeze also one or multiple enemies, and when they're freeze, they cannot do anything, they cannot shield themselves, they cannot heal, they cannot attack. You use the PDL because he is able to give everyone a shield, he is able to perform support to his team, to purify one debuff from them, as well as if he is 6 stars, he's able to stun enemies. So that's another control effect. And then because you already have on this formation 2 tanks and 1 warrior, you could either go with 1 healer and try to protect Saryusu as your damage dealer, or you can go with another character with control skills like Solution. She is not exactly a control character, but she has a lot of turn meter manipulation that is not gonna let the enemies play that easily. Or you can go with Victim that is able to stun the enemies as well and extend the stun duration. Or you can go for one that is, like a guaranteed success there, and is Nigredo. Because the enemies will be already taunted by Albedo, or stunned by the PDL, or frozen by Saryusu. Nigredo is gonna be able to go in, throw her second skill, and extend the duration of that exact debuff even more. She might be able to extend the taunt or the froze state one more turn, unless the enemy gets purified. And even if you don't want to risk, the enemy getting purified, you can use the Curse Stitch to go and silence another different enemy, so you control the entire enemy team. And she also does a lot of damage, not only to the main target, but also to secondary targets, and she has a lot of assist rate, so she is gonna be able to basically help on the turn of every other ally that you have, even on the turn of the tanks and things like that. So a control team, an example would be Nigredo to extend the duration of the stuns and silence, Albedo to taunt the enemies, then you could use either Victim or Saryuso to stun or froze the enemies, and the PDL that might be able to shock the enemies, stun them, and even if he cannot stun because he's not 6 stars, he's gonna be able to buy time just by putting the ward isolating barrier, so all of his team gets protected. Gets protection from the barrier, and even if the barrier falls, he is gonna perform support every time he gets a shield. And there's like a good synergy he has with Albedo, ironically enough, because Albedo literally trashes him like multiple times, well, at least 2 times on the story. But as long as he has a shield, he's gonna perform support, or he's gonna be able to perform support to the allies. That is when he gets in the way and receives the damage instead of the ally that was the original target. And Albedo, at 6 stars, gives a shield to everyone on the team as soon as the game starts. But not only that, but naturally with her passive skill, she is able to give one ally a shield every 2 rounds before they get attacked. So she's gonna give the shield to the ally that is gonna be the incoming target of the enemy. And usually there is like a synergy with, let's say I have Nigredo, Albedo, Sariuso, and PDL on the team. The enemy targets Nigredo. Well, then Albedo is gonna give a shield. You will say, you will think to Nigredo, right? No, she gives the shield to the PDL because somehow she already knows, the game already knows that the PDL is gonna jump in the way and protect the ally. So because the game started, Albedo gave the shield to everyone. So she gave the shield to everyone, and then the shield of her passive went to the PDL because she knows the PDL is gonna get in the way and protect Nigredo. And then that happens, he protects Nigredo, he receives the damage, and her passive activates. Well, or her, yeah, it's her passive. Her passive activates, and he realizes a counter check, basically a counter attack, on the enemy because they hit an ally with a shield, and specifically one with her shields, and she has a chance of taunting the enemy, controlling them by a taunt, and in a counter attack. So there's that kind of really good synergy there with Albedo, where you have double tank, and with that you're already protecting almost everything that the enemy can throw at you. And now that I have explained those, I think on this video I'm gonna showcase the shock team, the shock synergy, and I'm gonna do like 5 combats. Then I'm gonna throw a next part, and the next part I'm gonna do the stalling teams, and that is gonna be a longer video because the stalling teams usually take long to win. And then I'm gonna do another part for the control teams. So if you're seeing this, the I know I upload a lot of videos, so you might not see it right away. But if you open the Lord of Nazarick playlist and go to the recent ones, it should be after this one, the next parts. I'm gonna try to put them, one right after the other on the playlist. So yeah, with that said, enjoy the combats, and until the next time.